All right, good Wednesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Brian McClure. I guess I shouldn't say morning. Well, it's coming up right on midday right now. It's right about the noon hour. Looking at the various tropics, let's go ahead and give you a tropical update. Again for today, still no tropical storm officially. By the time you watch this, I wouldn't be surprised though if it is a tropical storm. This is such a funny little wave in that it just doesn't want to fully wrap up and become a storm, but it sure looks like it's real close to me. Here you can see right in here, broad circulation. If this would just tighten up a little bit right in there, you'd be looking at a tropical storm. Hurricane Hunter aircraft have actually been flying through there. There you can see the latest view. You know, what you're looking for in this particular situation is you're looking for a west wind right here, and that's what they haven't found yet. And so there's a broad circulation in here. Yes, these winds are coming in like this. These winds are coming in like this. We just don't have a solid west wind. Now, keep in mind, there's the aircraft right there flying through it. So they probably will come back down and go back around through. And at that time, that's why I said I wouldn't be surprised if by the time you actually watch this video, because you know how Facebook works. I mean, a lot of times you can actually have a situation where, you see this video a whole day later, let alone hours later. It's one of the reasons why I'm not always a huge fan of Facebook is that, I love doing these videos, but people will see these later and then go, no, wait a second, I thought it was already a storm. Yeah, don't be surprised if by the time you watch this, it is a storm. I think it's headed there real fast. Let's see here. This is kind of interesting. You notice this little dot? You see this right in here? I was trying to figure out what that was. I was like, what is that dot? This is really neat. I went on to Google Earth. Okay, so here you can see the Caribbean. This is about where the center is located. It's about right in here, right? I zoomed all the way down like this, and I found this little tiny island. Check this out. Isn't that cool? So that's about where the center is, and there's even a helipad. Look at that. Little helipad right there. So go figure, this little island out in the middle of nowhere in the Caribbean is about where the center of where there probably is a circulation trying to coalesce. It's south of the U.S. Virgin Islands. It's west of like Guadeloupe, Dominica, southwest of St. Kitts. So it has made it into the Eastern Caribbean. And as you can see also, the fact that it's now made it to where we thought if it went into the Eastern Caribbean, if it's going to try and move northwestward, well, look at all the land masses now in front of it. You've got Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic and Haiti is Hispaniola, by the way, and you've got Cuba. So if it's going to try and go like this, it's got a lot of land that it has to go over. Here's the track for the potential tropical cyclone. So let's just assume it's going to be Tropical Storm Isaias later on today. At some point, it's going to be a tropical storm. Okay, it finally gets declared. It finally has a circulation center. The National Hurricane Center has really backed off on their forecast for intensities. And this is one of the reasons why I practically beg the public to just chill out, take it easy. I wouldn't go with the hype national headlines. I wouldn't go with some of the national outlets that just love to hype everything because, in all honesty, this thing has a lot to go through before it can even become a formidable tropical storm, let alone a hurricane. They've backed way off on their forecast. They are still calling for about a 50-mile-per-hour wind tropical storm, assuming it can survive past Hispaniola and Cuba. And yes, it has been adjusted west. But remember, even last night, I was joking about how it should be adjusted westward and southward because the center of circulation hasn't even been found yet. So as long as you keep tracking that center farther and farther southwest, well, of course you have to shift everything over. So some people will say, but now look, I mean, this track actually could have it in the Gulf. That's true. It absolutely could. And those are things that we have to watch. The farther south it goes, if it totally misses Hispaniola, Cuba, then yes, obviously all bets are off. Then it could be stronger in the Gulf of Mexico. But if this thing heads right over all these land masses right in here, no, it's not strengthening. Sorry. It's just not going to happen. It would have to totally miss all that land. There's a lot of things still out in front of it, too. I mean, I haven't even gotten onto the subject of dry air. There's tons of dry air here on the western and northwestern side. To tell you the truth here, here's a good link. This is the one I showed yesterday. Look at all this dry air in the yellow and orange colors. Okay, it's pretty much surrounding it. And by the way, if you look at the latest satellite from this morning, where do I have that? It's right back here. Here we go. So let's go to, this is a good one. Let's go to the visible. Let's pull it up right now. Okay, it's interesting what has happened. It's kind of what I was talking about yesterday. The southern lobe has taken over. It's down in here, okay? And the northern vortice, or northern lobe, northern gyre, whatever you want to call it, it's up in here. This entire thing is the way. Well, this one's kind of breaking away and going north. This is the one that appears to be taking over and now is going to move like this, west-northwestward. Well, remember yesterday, if you were watching my video, I said if it's the southern one, it's not only going to track farther south, go through the Caribbean, but we cannot possibly predict what it's going to do until we get one center coalescing. And that's why, to a certain extent, I'm not a huge fan of potential tropical cyclone tracks. I am a big fan of, hey, giving a heads up. There probably will be a tropical storm and warning countries downstream. Absolutely. I'm a fan of that. But I just don't know if we should have been putting out a potential track the past couple of days. I think it led to a lot of misinformation and a lot of people going, oh my gosh, where's it going to go? Where's it going to? We cannot possibly predict things until we know we have a center. And technically we still don't, even though I do think one's finally forming right now. Here are the various ensemble plots. You know I'm a big fan. If you've watched me over the years, I'm a big fan of ensemble forecasting, which is basically you take one computer model, the Euro, the GFS, the Canadian, the UK, whatever it is, and you then give it different variables and then say, now with those different variables, spit out what you would do now. And when you start to see consensus, that's when you get a better handle on it. Well, you can see the Euro has gone a little bit farther west. The GFS has gone a little bit farther west. Essentially, it almost kind of runs it into Florida. But remember, that's what I said yesterday. It wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. Essentially, if that happens, you're talking about a weak tropical storm limping into Florida and giving Florida rain. Okay, that's not necessarily a bad thing. To tell you the truth, that's how Florida gets a lot of its beneficial rains over the years. This is the GFS ensemble. I ran this yesterday. I'll run it for you again today. So let me circle about where it would be located. Right about in there. So I think the GFS, believe it or not, I said this yesterday and I think people are going to think I'm crazy, but the GFS, I think, is doing a pretty good job. People knock on it. People make fun of it. I get it. I've looked at it for years and years and years. I understand why people make fun of it, but I think it's doing a good job right now. I really do. Let's show about where it is thinking right now. Okay, so this would be midday, Wednesday. Here we are. Well, look at that. It pretty much initialized almost perfectly. And it also shows a very, very weak low. That's pretty much perfect. Okay, let's go out in time and see what it does with it. All right, now remember, ensemble is all the various forecast lows. So let's go forward, and it basically thinks that, hey, there'll be a clumping of, these are all the possible scenarios of where the low pressure areas could be. Well, notice it just went over the mountainous areas of Hispaniola. Okay, so I don't think it's going to be strong if that is correct. All right, let's go forward. Okay, that is Saturday morning. The GFS has possibilities anywhere from about Key West all the way to the eastern central Bahamas. I think that's a pretty good forecast, actually. And some people will say, oh, that's still a huge range. It is. It is absolutely a huge range because the eastern edge could go northward and it could strengthen along the Gulf Stream. The western edge could come into the Gulf. Absolutely. But I think based on computer modeling, it's actually pretty good, especially considering we have no clue if it's going to move more like this or if it's going to move over these mountainous areas of the islands. If it goes over those islands, I think the GFS is actually doing a pretty good job saying, it's a weak tropical storm either moving into Florida or just drifting right by it. All right, let's go. This is right now. Let's go to the Euro at the exact same time. Hey, pretty good. I think it also is doing a pretty good job of initializing. Now, it's interesting though, its members are more spread out right now, almost as if its model is going, whoa, I can't figure out where the center is, so we're just going to put a whole bunch of them around here. Yeah, I don't blame it for doing that. That's, again, we're having a hard time finding the center, and we have an actual plane in there. So this doesn't look bad either. It also, look at that, takes it right over. No matter which one of these lows you take, it takes it right over Hispaniola. With that in mind, I'm not sure how it could possibly strengthen that much. And then what do you know, by Saturday morning, it's almost exactly like the GFS, just a little bit different, but very similar. It has it approaching Florida as a weak tropical storm. My point here is, I think they're actually doing a pretty doggone good job. People knock on meteorologists, they knock on computer models, they talk about, oh, you guys just guess and you get paid to do it. This is science. It's an imperfect science. And considering how far we've come in 20 years, I think this is kind of amazing how well they're doing. This is an interesting plot. I haven't showed this a lot because it can kind of get a little technical. This is essentially model diagnostics. So each one of these is, okay, this is obviously a track plot. This is more of like an intensity plot. You'll notice that going forward, a lot of the models don't really do much with it. They just say, yeah, it might try to peak and then come back down due to dry air that we've talked about, due to land interaction we talked about, due to wind shear down the road. So you'll notice none of them are really saying, oh, this just really just takes off and becomes a strong hurricane. No, they're all right down in here in that tropical storm category. Do you see now why I'm saying everybody just calm down and let's just watch it? I don't see this one as the big one, even though I'm sure the Weather Channel will make it out to be. Let's see here. Deep layer shear. Shear is essentially, think of it as something, the upper level winds that try to tear apart at hurricanes. So when you see these all increasing the shear down the road by this weekend, that's a good sign, which means it probably will have a lot working against it. See what I mean? So this is really interesting. There's a lot of things that are essentially working against this future tropical storm. And again, it'll be called Isaias. Okay, that's going to be the name of it. I do think it will get declared at some point today. It looks like to me it's very, very close to that already. That's what I have for now. I'll continue to update. And I'll put some graphics on the on my Facebook page from here on out through the rest of the day. But that's it. This is the Wednesday afternoon or midday update. I'm meteorologist Brian McClure. Thanks for watching.